Hey, this is the Minimoog Voyager. Alright, I'm sure the Voyager needs absolutely no introduction, but I am going to give one anyway. The Minimoog Voyager is a modern classic of a synthesizer. It's built upon the circuit design of the legendary Minimoog Model D from the 70s, but with much more modern features and more modulation sources and destinations to better fit more complex and modern music. It comes in several different models, including the original, the rack mount edition, which I have here, the XL, and the old school. With the exception being the old school, they all have been brought up to date with MIDI, with CC, a display, a backlit panel, and patch memory. The classic 3 oscillator design with a 4-pole ladder filter and 2 full ADSR envelopes make this a powerhouse of a monosynth that's able to create everything from fat basses to blistering leads to harsh noises and even softer textures. The new stereo filter and added modulation buses make it significantly deeper than the original Minimoog. You can even connect it to your rack or modular gear for even more control. Of course, you'll have to pay a premium for that Moog logo because these synthesizers go for between $3,000 and $5,000 US used. But for a synth that really feels like an instrument that evolves with you, it's a price worth paying. Wow, that was long. Yeah, that's a synthesizer, all right. All right, so as stated in the kind of short overview of this deal, it's got a pretty familiar design. We have the 3 oscillators, only 2 with fine frequency controls. Everybody else just gets the octave. This is cool. It actually has variable wave shapes, so you can morph between them instead of just kind of the selectable wave shapes of the original. You can do sync, you can do FM, you can unlink oscillator 3 from the keyboard, and you can select low or high frequency for oscillator 3, so kind of get that low mode just like the original. It has the original 24 decibel per octave or 4-pole ladder filter that makes the original Minimoog so fat. You get a mixer so you can blend all 3 oscillators and a noise, and you also get the external amount. You can do the original awesome overdrive thing by throwing the headphone jack out into the external in and cranking both that and the headphone volume. You get 2 full ADSR envelopes instead of the original Minimoog, which just had ADS envelopes, no release. That was just kind of coupled with the decay. You can choose the amount to go to the filter, just like the original, with kind of like the contour amount. You can also trigger the envelope externally, which is cool. What I like about this is, and I have not seen this on any other synth, is the panel brightness. So if it's dark, you're patching, you want to see what you're doing, that's freaking awesome. Everything looks super crisp, easily readable. And then you get 2 modulation buses over here, which is super awesome. And it looks like it's one for the mod wheel, which is cool. I don't have a mod wheel on this unit, obviously, because it's the rack mount. But if you had a mod wheel, you could do some modulation there, which is super dope. You also get the LFO, of course. You have patch memory. I believe there are 128 patches on here. You get tons of routing in the back, tons of CV ins and outs. You get audio ins and outs. This is a stereo synth instead of mono because it has that stereo filter, which you can do with the spacing, which is super dope. Oh, and you can also change the mode of the filter from a dual low pass to a high pass low pass, and that's really cool with the spacing. That sounds awesome. Obviously, the keyboard ones have more features, more playability features, really. So the original version and the XL and the old school all have the pitch and mod wheels, they all have the keyboard. One thing that is unique to the old school is that it doesn't have any MIDI, it doesn't have any CV ins, so you can't control the notes externally, which is kind of a fun thing. It's really like a performance tool, and it doesn't have an aftertouch or velocity sensitive keyboard, which is interesting. The original Voyager and the Voyager XL both have velocity and aftertouch on the keyboard, which is super dope. I'm a big fan of aftertouch, especially when it's polyphonic aftertouch. Obviously, this is a mono synth, so you're not getting the polyphonic aftertouch. It's just normal aftertouch. And if you don't know what that is, it's basically where like you get velocity sensitive keys where you can actually trigger the initial velocity of the key, but then aftertouch is where you can press into the key after having initially pressed it and it does something different, which is really cool. So that's really fun to use with like cutoff or like a pitch modulation, something like that. It would be really dope. I don't think it's really super necessary to go over all of the fine features of this guy. It's Minimoog, so it's not that deep. So I wanted to go over a couple little things that I found interesting about this synth. We're gonna go right over to the modulation buses here so I can show you that. So what's cool is that here we have a whole bunch of sources for modulation that we can choose and tons of destinations and also tons of shaping. It's so cool. The shaping, you can actually shape stuff with the aftertouch or the velocity or the filter envelope, which is really sick. Adds just a lot of like performance awesomeness to this synth. And then for sources, you get 2 LFO controlled waves shapes. You get the triangle wave and a pulse wave. You also get oscillator 3 as a modulation source, which is awesome. And then you also get sample and hold as a modulation source, which is really cool. And then obviously you can select a noise source or a secondary modulation source, which is awesome. And then you can set the destination to the pitch so you can get a nice vibrato going. You can set it to oscillator 2, which is cool for doing like weird FM stuff or synchy stuff. Oscillator 3, kind of same thing. You can set it to the filter, so that's kind of fun for making evolving little textures. Or if you wanted to self-oscillate the filter, it does that. It sounds absolutely nasty when you do that. It's fantastic. That's one of my favorite things to do, is basically use the filter as an oscillator, get that nice sine wave action, get some modulation in there, get it sounding real nasty. And then you can also make the destination the wave shape or the LFO, which is weird, but cool. And then you can obviously change the fine tuning amount, and then there's a glide on there as well. And then you can also sync the LFO to an external, to MIDI, to the keyboard, or to the envelope or gate, which is super cool. Gives you plenty of options for creating like tempo synced stuff, or stuff that's synced to what you're playing on the keyboard, or just kind of chaos stuff if you want to sync it at all, which is awesome. I'm a big fan of the fact that you can morph each individual oscillator instead of just choosing wave shapes. That really just like adds so much to this guy. Like, it's awesome. You can get different wave shapes that wouldn't have been possible with earlier synthesizers, and that's something that I've seen a lot more on newer synthesizers where you can do that wave morphing, and I am here for it. I love it. And as far as the stereo filter goes, oh my god, it just sounds so good. You can get such weird stuff, especially, like I said, when you do the self-oscillating thing of the filter, you can get 2 different pitches in each ear, and it sounds cool. You can make weirdo space sounds, you can make really pleasant, nice sounds, you can do kind of whatever you want. Everything sounds good. But yeah, this synth really isn't very deep. It's pretty fun. It's a lot deeper than the original because the original was completely surface level and kind of like the old school. That one's also pretty surface level because there's nothing digital about it. It's completely analog. There's no like patch memory or anything. It's crazy. But I'm a big fan. I've already been making awesome noises with this, and I'm sure you could as well. So I'm gonna stop talking and show you some more sounds that this can make. I might throw in some other synthesizers with it to kind of give you a idea of how it sits with other stuff. Just a fair warning, this thing cuts through pretty well. So if you can't cut through with this, yeah, I don't know what you're gonna do. So here's some more sound demos. If you want a full kind of deep dive sound demo where I just kind of mess around with it for about 8 minutes, I also have a video up on my channel about that, so you can do that. That's all playing, no talking. That's a super fun jam. I really liked doing that. So yeah, let's get into some more sounds. Alright, so that's gonna do it for my video on this guy. I absolutely love it. Obviously it's a very expensive synthesizer, so it's not super in reach for everybody, but it's certainly more within reach than an original Minimoog, and it can make all of the sounds of the original because of that same circuit design and the ability to throw in the headphone out as the external input, get that crazy overdrive. Just a fantastic synthesizer, and it has been a pleasure to mess around with it for a few days. It's kind of a personal dream come true for me. This is like the most excited I've ever been to review a synthesizer, because I've been wanting one of these like ever since I knew they existed, pretty much. When I was probably 10, 12 years old, something like that, I started getting more and more into 9 Inch Nails and all of the like late 90s industrial music where they were using Minimoogs. And then when those bands came out with music in the 2000s and they started using the Voyagers, ever since I saw Trent Reznor using one of these, I was like, I need that. I want one of those someday. And this one is not mine. This is provided courtesy of Metronome Music. I just wanted to say quick thank you. You guys are awesome. They've been providing me with synthesizers to make videos about. I can share them with you guys and hopefully get you a good deal if you want one of these. Actually, if you wanted to buy this exact unit right here, like the one I'm physically touching, you can do that on their website. If you go to metronomemusic.com, they will give you a fantastic deal on this. In fact, this unit actually comes with the 2 voltage expander modules, so you get even more external connectivity and modulation and stuff with this than I am showing right now, which is super awesome. The price they have it on their website with those 2 modules is absolutely a steal. It comes in all the original packaging. It's in fantastic shape. And it's been a complete pleasure to play. It sounds fantastic. It is hands-on. It is knob per function. I adore it. It is everything you could want in a mono synth. Like, it does everything you could possibly want a mono synth to do. So thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. It has been awesome to be able to hold and use this awesome special piece of gear, and I hope that one of you can enjoy it as well, and that this review was helpful if you're trying to buy one. So yeah, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next synth review. And until then, stay healthy and stay safe, and I'll see ya. Peace.